Have you ever had a job where you felt frustrated due to unfair treatment and an incompetent boss? Well, I've got the story for you. Today I want to take a look at a series called Real Man, or alternatively, depending on where you're reading it, A Man's Man, which coincidentally is just like me, huh? Look at these muscles. This series is a Manhwa, or Korean comic, and it follows CEO Han Yu-hyun, an employee of Hansung, a Samsung parody. Yu-hyun starts the story off as the boss of Hansung, having climbed there with a combination of skill and backstabbing. Despite the power and wealth he's achieved, he's a lonely middle-aged man who regrets everything he's done to get where he is. After a drunken escapade at a strange bar, Yu-hyun regresses back to the day he interviewed at Hansung back in 2007. With his knowledge of the future and his natural skills, he vows to climb to the top without throwing away his friends, family, and ideals like he did last time. Now, right off the bat, this story gets points for having a regression plotline in a unique setting. We're not dealing with some fancy schmancy hero who has to go back in time to save the world, get revenge, and find romance like everybody else. No, we're dealing with a middle-aged electronics developer who just wants to go and stick it to some stuck-up bosses. This is the most relatable manhwa I have ever read. Yu-hyun also has a bit of an internal back and forth between his present caring side and his former ruthless CEO persona, where he's constantly struggling with the instinct to abandon his friends to rise to the top quickly. On one hand, you want him to suppress this instinct and support his team even during the difficult times. On the other hand, you can't wait for it to come out when dealing with the greedy and smug authority figures who plan to drag everyone else down while they advance. It's a beautifully balanced scale of manipulation and friendship. The side characters are great as well, with most of the story so far following the Cursed Team 3, or Part 3. I'm not too familiar with Korean electronic team structure. But essentially, it's a division of developers who really have a rough time, and in the original timeline, all get fired except for Han Yu-hyun, who actually abandons them and moves on to a different area. In this new timeline, each member gets their own arc where Yu-hyun changes their original fates and gets them recognition in the company while improving their job satisfaction. It is just so satisfying to see this team get the recognition they deserve, and chasing that feeling led me to binge the entire series in a few days. I especially love the interaction with the team lead, who is a Kakashi-type mentor who has the lazy but wise mentality. The man's backstory is both tragic and sets up his character so well that I teared up a little in his arc. Normally, I'm quite the dry boy. One aspect I really like is that Yu-hyun is a kiss-ass, but he's a kick-ass kiss-ass. He only kisses ass to benefit himself, and he props up some of the villains and turns them over to his side. Which, I'm always a big fan of that Vegeta comeback, if you know what I'm saying, that Dragon Ball Z villain treatment. And he essentially uses his connections with a bunch of other people, such as cleaners, drivers, small-time people who can gather information to his benefit. The only flaws I'd take note of are that the translation can be a little rocky depending on where you read it. I don't think there's an official one out, not that I've found. And while there's a lot of mind games, which I love, it's not very action or romance oriented. So if that's your bag, you might not like this. There's some action. He does get a faster response time when he goes back and he gets in 1 or 2 fights, but that's not the main focus. As for romance, there is a romance subplot, but basically the man is trying to get together with his wife from the past. So he's not romancing any of the female leads that we find, which technically there isn't really a female lead until I'm assuming his wife gets here. She has not shown up from what I've read so far. So other than that, this is another Michael-approved series, and that's it for today. Give me the old like and subscribe if you want more manhwa and manga recommendations, and I'll see you during the next one. Thanks.